Today on All Things 80s, it's the ultimate TIE Fighter pilot showdown. Welcome back to All Things 80s. Now, the TIE Fighter pilot from Kenner is one of my all-time favourite Star Wars figures. Not only does it look really cool, it smells amazing. So I thought it would be interesting to see how this one stacks up against some of the more modern versions that have been released in the past couple of decades. Now, there are literally dozens of TIE Fighter pilots out there in the second-hand market. So I had to limit myself, so I've got 6 newer versions to compare it against this one. So let's go ahead and let the comparison commence. Okay, so here we are with the ultimate TIE Fighter pilot showdown. So starting back in 1982, we have the original from Kenner. Now, there's not a whole lot I can say about this that hasn't already been said. Wonderful, wonderful figure, solid construction, wonderful smell as well, but we all know that. The blaster it came with is all right, but as with a lot of these Kenner figures, it doesn't really hold it in its hand too well. But regardless, this is where it all began. Oops. And this is the one that will form the baseline for this comparison. Good Lord. Okay, classic from Kenner. Now, in 1996, we had the Power of the Force 2 line. And as with the original Kenner, this is basically 5-point of articulation with the addition of a swivel waist. This figure does look good. The blaster or rifle it came with is all right, slightly large, and of course it came with this ridiculous looking, huge, oversized rifle, which I don't believe if this was in real life you'd be able to carry that. But regardless, the figure itself is very nice with a lot more detail than Kenner gave us in the original version. 5-point of articulation, as I said, which is my sort of standard for action figures. It actually looks really good, and unlike a lot of these Power of the Force 2 figures, it's not overly bulky looking, so it's pretty well in proportion. And in terms of comparing it to the original, yeah, it is very good. Again, I'm somewhat biased and I cannot really see past the original Kenners, but this one, I do like it a lot. Very well done. And certainly no complaints from me on this one. Now, next up, we have a Power of the Jedi from 2001. And I'm led to believe this came with a TIE Interceptor. Is that right? TIE Interceptor? Possibly. But apparently it did not come with any weapons, which is fine, because if it was coming with a ship, you don't really need a handheld weapon. This one, again, very similar to the Power of the Force, except this one has the addition of the knee joints, which would help it to sit in its accompanying vehicle, which is a nice touch. The sort of control panel for his breathing apparatus does not attach to the body, but the helmet's firmly attached. Nice detailing on the helmet, the sleeve here. Very nice, actually. Very good looking figure. I'm a fan of this one as well. So now we're getting on to the version which is the Battle of Yavin release from 2004. And don't quote me on this, but I believe this is the same as the trilogy saga, possibly. I don't know. But anyway, this one, we're now getting into much more sort of articulation, more sort of fine detail. Now, this one does not have a removable helmet, and the control panel is attached to the chest in this one. We've got numerous points of articulation. In my opinion, it's just too much for such a small figure, but that's my view anyway. Very nice sculpting, actually. Everything looks to be in sort of decent proportions. The blaster is okay. It is rather flimsy plastic, which is a bit disappointing. But overall, it does look good, but I'm just not a fan of the excessive amounts of articulation in such a small figure. It's just overkill in my opinion, but some people like it, some people don't. But this one, it looks okay, but just when you hold it, it's feels extremely flimsy. And but again, if you're placing it in a vehicle, it's probably quite good to have the additional knee articulation. So yeah, this one isn't too bad if I'm being honest. So now we're moving on to 2009, and this is the Legacy Collection. Now this one is interesting. So first things first, again, as with the Battle of Yavin version, it's got a ton of articulation. But this one is interesting in that it has a rubber belt with holster over a sculpted and painted belt. So that's an interesting touch. The blaster is very thin, flimsy, and really does not sit well in the hand at all. It really has a hard time staying in there. You know, probably as bad as the Wave 1 Retro Collection. But what makes this one interesting are two things actually. One, they have the teardrop effect on the mask. I don't know how well that's coming across, but this one, the chest plate control panel pops off and the helmet pops off. So this is quite unique in that we never saw the TIE Fighter pilot without a helmet, so I'm not really sure why they thought this would be a good idea. I guess it's a sort of a nice novelty, but the figure itself just feels horrible in my hand, if I'm being honest. Very thin, flimsy, and just the levels of articulation, it's just too much in my opinion, but that is just an opinion. So this was the Legacy from 2009. Now, 2018 gave us the Vintage Collection, and this figure came packaged with the TIE Fighter. And it's basically the exact same sculpt as the Legacy Collection, except in this case, the helmet is not removable, although the chest plate does come off, so that's strange. Also has different painting details on the helmet with the silver up here and a bit of additional painting here. But this figure is terrible in that the left leg is completely bowed. Without the help of a action figure stand, it is impossible to get this figure to stand on its own due to the fact that the leg is completely deformed. And I did notice that when you try to put him into the sitting position, he looks like a dame sitting side saddle on a horse. It's very unusual. I'm not sure if that's been done on purpose because it has to fit in a certain way, but in terms of it just being a standalone figure, it looks ridiculous, and I think that's a poor show from Hasbro to actually release that on the market. But, you know, there may be good reason for that. If there is, let me know in the comments, but I do not like this one bit. I should have mentioned as well with the Battle of Yavin version, they also gave us this very nice action figure stand embossed with the Star Wars logo. So that's a nice touch. But finally, the big one, the Black Series. Now, you know, I've made a point of saying I'm not a modern collector, but this I like a lot. This looks fantastic. It really does. And in a figure of this size, I do agree that articulation is a great thing. It's got, you know, I've already reviewed the AT-AT driver from this range, so I won't go into too much detail except to say that they've done a fantastic job on this. It looks great. It feels great. It feels solid. There's no detachable helmet, but it has a nice usable holster for the blaster, which, if I can pull it out, come on. There we go. Good size, good feel to it, nice solid blaster. It even has a molded trigger finger, which is quite nice. It fits in rather well, and you know, endless options of putting him into cool poses and things. You know, even the ankle joint, a lot of options there. So this is a fantastic action figure, it really is. But the issue with figures of this size is it's impossible to get a vehicle. I mean, it's, well, okay, it's not impossible, but price-wise, vehicles to fit this scale of figure is pretty much cost prohibitive. So when looking at these all lined up, I think they started out well, they did not too badly, and then things went downhill fast, especially with the vintage collection from 2018, and culminating in the 2020 Black Series, which, for what it is a fantastic figure. But, you know, maybe I'm biased, but nothing in my eyes will ever beat the original from Kenner. So, what do you think? Have Hasbro improved on the classic Kenner from 1982? I don't really think so, but I will say the Black Series is a very impressive figure, although it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges, given that one is 3¾ inches and one is 6 inches. And if you listen to most ladies, they will tell you that they prefer 6 inches. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Special thank you to the Patreons. And please give this video a like, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and as always, stay tuned for more videos from All Things 80s.